Welcome to the David Bradley Show with your host, David Bradley.
Howdy, y'all. How's everybody doing out there today? Y'all are not going to believe who pulled up at my driveway and beat the crap out of my front door going, "Hey, man, what are you doing?" Everybody say hi to Chris. What's up, dude?
What's going on, David? Yeah, I was just trying to beat it down, and you was trying to beat me off with a daggone broomstick.
Well,
I didn't know what to think about it.
Well, you didn't bring beer with you, so, I had to do something.
I ain't ever been much of a beer guy, man. You know me. You can't sing country music and not drink whiskey.
Damn Skippy. So what's been going on, man?
Man, it's been a good run. I've been in town for a while, and I think we talked prior to the show about how invested I am in the veteran community, and I'm doing the best songwriting I've ever done right now, playing some of the biggest shows I've ever played, and I'm really excited about the future. So we're just taking it one day at a time and just trying to see what happens, man. You can only throw stuff up against the wall so many times before it sticks. So I feel like you know what? Something's got to happen. I'm too invested at this point for it not to. But
I know. Hell, when we first started talking, I was looking at a bunch of your stuff, and I was just like, man, this dude's got the voice. He's got everything going on. Why the hell ain't you signed yet? And I'm just like, a lot of people they don't pay attention like they used to, I don't guess.
Yeah, the funny thing about the music industry, man, is it's completely different than it was back in the 80s and the 90s and early 2000s, because it's such a visual world now, and you've got TikTok, you got Instagram, you got all these social media outlets. And the big thing about it is, and no offense to how the greatest thing about Nashville is it's a chessboard. So everybody has their own way to where they want to go, and you have to move your pieces where you want them to be to make sure that you get where you want to be. For me, in a perfect world, I would love to have my own label, have a distribution deal, and rock it that way, simply because if I build it, I know they will come, but I only want the people inside of my circle that I want inside of my circle, and I don't want everybody's hand in a cookie jar. Nothing wrong with that, but you can take a guy who's got 500,000 TikTok followers and did a great cover of Keith Whitley, and it's just like, oh my God, I see a payday. And then you can sign him to a 2-album deal, and then they're going to shelve him after that first single comes out because they made the money off of him.
Oh yeah.
And is that right? No, but it's business. At the end of the day, people forget that it's called the music business for a reason. And the way the music business works is like there's a huge wagon wheel. And I always go back to the Old Crow Medicine Show song, Wagon Wheel. Everybody say it's Darius Rucker, but it's Old Crow Medicine Show.
No.
But the whole wagon wheel has to turn simultaneously. So you got the PR, you got the advertising, you got the marketing, you got the merch, and you have to create the noise on the front end to get the return on the back end. And there's so many people that just, they don't get that. And it's young people coming to town that don't see that aspect of it. Best thing that ever happened to me was before I came to town, I got out of the Marine Corps. I am a United States Marine Corps vet. Hoorah.
Hoorah.
And,
appreciate your service.
Well, thank you. So the best thing for me that ever happened was I got the business degree, and then I moved to town. So that way I could see the whole scope of it, not just from a bird's eye view, but from an internal view.
Right.
So I treat my career like it's a business. So I am that small product. We build that product, and with that product, essentially you have to have liquid capital to go into that product, to promote it, to advertise it, to market it. It's no different than if I was selling daggum liquor in a liquor store.
Oh, right?
Yeah. If you got the best bourbon in the world, you got to get the word out to the people. But
have you thought about doing a bourbon?
I thought about trying to get sponsored to like private label a bourbon with my name on it, kind of like Lee Greenwood did with I think it's called Soldiers Bourbon.
Yeah.
Hey, you're welcome for that plug too, Lee Greenwood. But yeah, it's for me, do I want to be signed? The great thing about being with a major label is they hold a lot of keys. They hold a lot of keys to Live Nation, the larger venues, and radio, which I truly believe in the next 5 years, Spotify is going to become the new radio outlet, and terrestrial radio is going to go to the wayside.
Well, say I'm with you on that direction, but I also see a flip side of it. I think podcasting is going to take a lot of leaps and jumps, and it's going to become huger than what it is right now.
Oh, without a doubt, man. And I think the big introduction to podcasting was during COVID. During 2020.
Oh, yeah.
there was so many people who was trying, especially celebrities alike. It's like they were trying to find a way to occupy their time. So start a podcast. You get 500,000 followers, and what a lot of people don't know is you put that on Sound Exchange, you get royalties off of it.
Yeah.
So it's another way, it's another revenue stream that brings in income.
Hang on, I got to make a note of that.
So yeah, man, anything you're doing here, you need to go to Sound Exchange or find any way you can do like some kind of syncing to where you can get some kind of, I mean, it might not be a check, but for $50, but you know what? $50 to buy a cable.
Daddy always said, you know, $5 is $5.
Yep.
Man.
And that's the way I live my life. I'm like, you know what? $1 is $1.
Yeah.
Because dollars make sense and cents makes dollars.
So, yeah, I totally agree with that. So you know, we've been talking, you know, before the show and everything. And the one thing that really I wanted to know about was your hometown.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, on your bio and everything else, you know, you talk about it. And I'm just like trying to picture it in my head, you know, the whole time. So fill me in a little bit on that, man. I mean, what was your hometown like? And
I'm very, very proud of it, man. I tell everybody, every interview I do, I come from a town with 2 red lights, a Hardee's, and a Piggly Wiggly.
That's it.
But Hardee's burnt to the ground. So now we got a Subway, and we got a Mixed Pizza Castle, and we got a gym now. So we are the epitome of Friday Night Lights, if you've ever watched that show.
Yep,
so on Friday,
it was a good show.
The whole town shuts down for Friday Night Football. But the great thing about it is, for me, is like it's a great town to grow up in. And what ruined it for me is like whenever I joined the Marine Corps and I saw the world, I was like, nothing wrong with small town life, man. But I've seen the world and I got to spread my wings.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I'm going to do. So I started writing songs and picking and all that stuff. But it's a great community. It's called 96 South Carolina. It's about an hour southwest of Greenville, and it's about an hour northwest of Columbia. And it's just probably a 4,000 or 5,000 population town. And it's just a really, I'm proud to call it home. You know, It's just one of those towns to where it's got a unique name, and the name stems from, you know, we've got this Revolutionary War battlefield in 96 called Star Fort.
Right.
And back during the Revolutionary War, there was an Indian maiden who rode 96 miles to warn her colonial boyfriend that the British were attacking. Now, with that being said, we lost the battle because I don't guess she got there quick enough. I have no idea. But when she got back, she made a good effort, so they named the town 96 because it was right outside of Charleston. It was like 96 miles of Charleston on horseback.
Right.
So,
well, see, that's what I was curious about. I thought maybe it was named after like a number coal mine, you know, or something like that.
Yeah, I get that a lot. It's like, where was it named after a road? Was it named after a state road, or what was it? Yeah. But no, it was really named after everything that went down right before the Revolutionary War battle came to 96. So.
And that's a hell of a story for a town, man. I mean, some people ain't got that kind of a, you know, background in anything. I mean, we've got, you know, the little fort downtown right there on the river.
Was that Nashboro?
Yeah, Nashboro.
Yeah, Nashboro, yeah.
Yeah. And, you know, I don't even think a whole lot of people even go to that thing anymore.
No. And it's sad, man, because it's such a really cool spot. And I tell everybody, in another life, I would have been a history coach, and I would have been a history teacher and a football coach.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm a huge history buff, and I love football. So.
You did play in school?
Oh, yeah. I played 4 years in school, and then I joined the Marine Corps. And whenever I wasn't deployed, I played for the Marine Corps. So
cool.
Yeah. So I love football.
You could have been signed, man.
Nah. I knew I wanted to write music and play music. I probably should have went the football route because I feel it every day.
Nah, hell. Dude, I've listened to your stuff, man. I mean, you got some damn good songs.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. You know, I told myself whenever I moved to town, it's like I want to be somebody who tells a story, right? Like an old troubadour. Yeah. So every project that I write or whatever I record, I try to do concept projects. And what I mean by that is, like, my last project was called American Made. Mm-hmm. So there's no song on that record called American Made. You know, you've got You're One of Us. You've got not what I'm talking about. You got You're One of Us. You've got If You Drink. You've got your Slow Ride. You've got The Love You Give Away. And everything in that particular project talks about what it's like to be American made, and we all fight the same struggles, right? Right. So this new one I got coming out, it's called Rough Around the Edges, and I kind of titled that to my brother who passed away back in 2016 from cancer, because oddly enough, the preacher that preached his funeral is now a bus driver for Humphrey Hills.
Oh, man.
And what he said at my brother's funeral was like, you know what? Like Marion, we're all a little bit rough around the edges, like this coffin that he's laying in. And that always stuck with me, and I always tried to figure out a spot to put that in a song.
Yeah.
So my new single that's coming out in the summer called Cowboy Like That is it talks about being rough around the edges. So I want every song to seem like it's a book that you're reading, to where you turn from one chapter to the next chapter to the next chapter.
Yeah.
So I've always cut concept projects. I don't think the first record I cut whenever I came to town was called American Fighter, and it was named after one of the tracks that was on the record. And a buddy of mine who's an MMA fighter named Rich Franklin, he was a co-writer on it. So ever since then, it's been like, I need to tell a story, because if you tell a story, people will listen more than it is. It's like, well, you know, here's XYZ song, and XYZ song's number 9 on the track list. Let me see what XYZ song's about. So I feel like there's a way to get lost in the minutia and not listen to the rest of everything that's on the record if you name it after a song that's on the record. So
Yeah.
I've always tried to do that. So,
And see, that's what I've actually talked to several people about that, how I want, like, I want the way that the country music used to be, you know, how they told a story, how it was a reflection of that artist live, you know, and I think a lot of people got away from that, and they wasn't really, I think it was more about the numbers, you know, and the money and turning this out, turning that out. And it just drove me nuts. And now I see where a lot of guys like you're getting back into it and getting back into telling that story. And to me, that is pivotal in the moment of country music right now.
oh yeah.
Because a lot of people are wanting to get back to really the old storytelling, but in that new kind of tone, new music, and it just really rocks, man. I love it.
I think the biggest thing is like the whole world has become fake, because you can sit there on Facebook and you can catfish somebody in a heartbeat. Mm-hmm. But I think the reason people are starting to appreciate authenticity is because it was a lost art form that left us, I don't know, 5 or 6, 7 years ago.
Yeah, close to it.
And to be able to tell that story and research said artist or said songwriter and know where they came from is like, oh, okay, I get it now. Mm-hmm. And I'm a huge fan of that, because like I told you earlier before we got on the air, I've always said, if you haven't lived it, don't write it.
Yeah.
Because authenticity pays dividends in the long run.
Oh, yeah.
And for me, you know, I've always, I'm not such a narcissistic songwriter to where every time I finish a record, I throw it to the town. 'Cause this is the town of the song. So if I'm trying to say something that I can't say myself, and I find a writer who has written a song that's better than what I've written, I'll cut it in a heartbeat. I'll go pay the mechanical license and all that stuff on it.
Oh, yeah.
Because I'm trying to get my story out to my listening audience. And it's worked so far.
Oh, yeah.
But I am a huge fan of story songs, and there's only so many damn times you can search around a daggone bonfire and find pretty pink toes and drink cold beer. I mean, I'm just saying. You know,
That's true.
Tell me about the heartbreak in your life. Tell me why you are where you are, or tell me, like, who are your influences? Like I got one of my go-to writing partners in town. His name's Jamie Adamson, and he sounds like he swallowed the whole Sahara Desert and spit it out. Dude, this guy has got so much grit, it's not even funny.
Yeah.
So when we write together, we write so well together. And we've got this song called, I wrote Cowboy Like That with him. Mm-hmm. But then we went back in the writing room. We wrote a song called My Bible on Vinyl. And it pays homage to all the greats. Like the opening lines to the song is like, when Cash sang real music and Waylon was still using and Merle was still locked away.
Yeah.
Loretta was coal mining and Conway was two-timing and George knew just what to drink.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sitting there and we're writing this and I was like, oh my God, this is real stuff, man. And people are going to eat it up, because if we don't play the greats or pay homage to the greats, who will?
Yeah, exactly.
You know? I mean, because they're the ones who actually founded and started and put country music on the map.
Yeah.
So, yeah, man. So if you haven't lived it, don't try to write about it.
Oh yeah, that's I'm a firm believer in that.
Oh yeah,
I mean, it's crazy because I mean, you going on that. I mean, I've seen artists. They're singing a song, and of course, the songwriter wrote it. They're just singing it, and that song, that particular song they're singing, you know they didn't live that. You know they had no clue what in the heck they were singing about.
Exactly.
You know, and I'm just like, man, y'all need to get back, you know. And finally, it's finally happening. Got great guys like you coming in and doing that stuff, you know.
Well, thank you, man. There's a lot greater guys than I am that's out there doing it, and I appreciate the hell out of them. Riley Green's one of them. Let's see. Riley Green's one of them. Nah, I'm being funny. Co Wetzel's really great. He's a guy out of Texas who's coming. I think he's in Nashville in May. Cody Johnson. I mean, I did a show with Cody, and he is as humble on stage and behind stage as he is. I'm gonna tell you my Cody story.
All right.
So Cody, I got called on a Monday, and Cody was playing in a place called the Country Club. It's not there anymore, in Augusta, Georgia. And the promoter called me because I'm really good friends with the promoter. He's like, hey, man, look, Cody's playing. We don't have an opener. Would you come down and open for him? I was like, sure. He's like, there's no budget. Just come down here and play for merch sales. Mm-hmm. And, you know, me being an artist, but I'm a businessman first, I look at it and I'm like, well, it's going to put me in front of his audience. It's going to put me in front of Cody. Mm-hmm. Go down there and do our job, have a good time. We'll play for merch sales and do our thing. So I went down there, and that night I had a pretty decent night on merch. You know, we sold a good many T-shirts and hats or whatever.
Yeah.
And then Cody came up to me after the show because we showed up early to help Cody load in to where they didn't have to get volunteers at the venue, and we helped him load out. We got done playing, and Cody walked up to me and he said, did you get paid tonight? I was like, well, man, I got the call on Monday and I was told to come down here and play for merch sales or whatever. He's like, nobody plays my stage for free, man. And he pulled out 5 $100 bills in his hand and he handed them to me personally.
Damn.
And he was like, you know what? I appreciate what you're doing. I've been there. Mm-hmm. And I was like, you know what? That's a cool ass guy. He gave me a stage. I played for merch, and then he paid me an extra $500 on top of it, which don't seem like a lot, but I mean, when you're talking Cody Johnson, I mean, I'm just like, he didn't have to do that. He could have been an asshole. He could have been a diva.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, FCC or whatever it is, SEC or whatever.
That's the beauty of podcasting.
Yeah.
Okay, there ain't those boys.
Yeah, he could have been an asshole, but he was like really cool, and he was like, hey, man. He came up to me after my set, and he's like, he hugged me and gave me a bro hug, and he was like, dude, you guys killed it. But then he went out there, and I was like, damn, I need that production. Because production's everything. You know that, being a former production
Well, see,
guy.
that's something I always didn't like. Like when, okay, so you know you've got your main act, and you got 2 openers. And the thing that I never could stand when you was doing the production, you had a certain level you could do with the first act.
Right.
You had a certain level you could do with the second act.
But the headliner, the gloves are off.
The headliner, you could do whatever the hell you wanted to.
Exactly.
And, you know, all the lights are on, everything's going crazy, you know, and I'm just like, man, if I could have done that for that first person, mm-hmm. and then I could have built on it a little bit better, and I could have done something a little bit different, and I could have made each one of them look just as impressive.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that would help out more than what they're doing.
Well, man, we're low level acts, and we're just a bunch of peons trying to.
Doesn't matter.
You know, it's
the way I look at it. You can be that low level peon, okay?
You can be, yeah.
But guess what? Those fans out there in that crowd.
True story.
They know.
Oh yeah, without a doubt.
And the whole time they're sitting there thinking, "Wow, that's kind of shitty," you know.
And that's why now I'm like any stage I play in anybody's hometown or whatever, I try to reach out to somebody local and be like, hey, who's a local guy?
Yeah.
Who's the guy, if you had one person that you could recommend to go see in a show, who is it? Mm-hmm. I'm like, okay, well, you know what? I'm coming to Amity, Pennsylvania, and I'm playing Rinky Dinks, which truly happened, but this happened early in my career.
Yeah.
And all right, cool. I want him there, and I got a spot for him. I want him to open up for me. And not only, it's not just because he's going to bring the local crowd. It's because, you know, myself coming up through the industry, I never had anybody do that for me.
Yeah.
So now it's kind of like me paying it forward to where, you know, if you've got somebody who needs to be shined or have a spotlight on, even if I make it to the next level, man, I'm just saying, if, you know, if I'm able to ever headline the Bridgestone, nobody thought Jelly Roll would ever do it either, but he's doing it now.
Exactly.
So if I ever have a stage like that, I'm not going after, I don't know, Parker McCullum or Riley Green or anybody like that to try to open for me. I want to find the best act and do a poll throughout Nashville to be like, hey, who do you want to see on my stage? Mm-hmm. And I want to give them the stage just simply because, man, it all starts with independence, man. It really does.
Oh, yeah.
And we grind and we work, and to be able to have a stage like that is, I mean, I can't even explain the feeling.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know, I've been very blessed and fortunate in my experience to where I've did shows with Cody and Aaron Tippin and Tracy Lawrence and Darryl Worley, and, you know, I mean, the list just keeps going on, and it's only because, I mean, I knew people who were promoting on the staff, and they needed people to open for them. Mm-hmm. And had I not had that one connection, a lot of the stuff in my career would have never happened.
Oh, yeah.
Same thing with Randy Couture and If You Drink video. I mean, he came out to direct it, and he's a veteran himself, and I sent him the song If You Drink, and he heard it, and I told him the storyline for the video, and he's like, that's great. And then I started putting all the pieces to the puzzle together, and oddly enough, the Vietnam War Memorial Wall was in Nashville the weekend that he was here.
Oh, man,
and
that's lucky.
That's where that last shot came from.
Yeah,
was
and
because he happened to be in town the same time. And whenever I found that out, I called Randy. I was like, it's got to be this weekend, man. It has to be.
And didn't he direct it too?
He did. Yeah, he was a director on it. Him and a guy named Marshall from Shaggy Bus Entertainment.
Damn.
And it was great, man. I mean, it was great. And me and Randy are still friends to this day, just simply because of that connection.
And that video, man, was deep.
Yeah, it was
really touching.
We pitched it to CMT, and no offense, I get it. I understand it, but I don't think they particularly liked the fact that the shot kept zooming in on the Jim Beam bottle while he was driving.
Yeah.
Right? And I understand that, but Jim Beam was a sponsor of mine, and it was product placement.
Yeah, and the song is called
If You Drink. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. So the way I saw the video was like, you know, if you drink, come drink one with us. Mm-hmm. So the songwriters, that was not my song. I didn't write that song. Yeah. It got pitched to me, and I'll never forget it. I was in Rivergate in a parking lot outside the Goodwill, just waiting around, hanging out or whatever it was. And I was sitting there in the middle of the American Made project, and a guy sent me an email. His name's John Cirillo. God rest his soul. He just passed away about a year and a half ago from brain tumor.
Hate to hear that.
Yeah, and I heard the song, and I called him immediately, and I was like, man, when you guys wrote this song, what was you thinking? He's like, well, it's just an old Irish toast, man. We took the Irish toast and we wrote a song about it. I was like, well, let me tell you what I see. I was like, I see a veteran, with me being a veteran, that's sitting there suffering from PTSD, and it's whether it's pills or alcohol or whatever, he just can't get past himself. So his buddies hug up with him and say, hey, if you drink, come drink one with us. Don't drink by yourself.
Exactly.
And I wrote all that out, and I sent it to Randy, and he was like, dude, whatever you need me for.
Yeah.
Whatever. It doesn't matter.
I mean, to me, I would think that would be the worst thing in the world to be doing, is just sitting there by yourself.
Oh, yeah.
You know, once you got that community of people around you, and everybody, you know, giving you the support that you need, being there for you, I mean, that's got to help a lot.
Oh, it does, man. I mean, and a lot of people fail to realize that the veteran community is so big. Mm-hmm. I got Marines I served with that live in California, New York, all the way down to Miami, Florida.
Yeah.
And I've talked to them on a regular basis. And, I mean, this is 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah.
And we still act like we've never left the field together.
Yeah. I've got a buddy of mine. He went in the service, I believe it was the Army. He went in the Army right out of high school, and, you know, he done his everything he was supposed to do, and then he went into the reserves. They were the ones that got called up. He ended up going over 4 times.
To Afghanistan?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And
that's a lot.
Yeah. And when he come back, you know, he drives truck too. So, you know, we talk. I mean, hell, we've known each other forever. And, you know, he still talks to people that he was in the service with when he first started, you know.
Right.
And I love that camaraderie, man. The I got your back, brother, no matter what, you know.
So whenever I got out, that was the biggest transition to where it's like, you know, you go from being Marine, like full of piss and vinegar or whatever it is, and then you come out and it's just like you realize, like, don't nobody give a shit about me out here.
No,
they really don't. So then you start leaning on your brothers, and that's why I'm a part of this nonprofit out of Birmingham, Alabama called Warriors on Mission. So what they've done is they've developed a curriculum called the Hope Curriculum, and it talks about healing, opportunity, peace, and empowerment. And we go around to different veteran organizations, and we teach this curriculum to leaders. And once the leaders learn it inside the veteran organization, they start this thing called a Center of Hope.
Yeah.
To where the leaders actually teach the veterans how to deal with PTSD, because, man, being vets, man, we're hard-headed as hell. We won't go to the VA. We won't talk to therapists. We won't do nothing. We try to bottle it all up because that's exactly how we were taught. And that's how we were trained. So,
well, I mean, you're trained to take that testosterone that's on the inside of you, you know, and it's full hoo-ha, you know.
True story. Yep. So, you know, that's kind of like my philanthropy, if you will, because it's such a great organization. So anybody who's watching, warriorsonmission.org, check it out. There's your plug, Bob.
There you go, Bob.
Yeah. But no, it's really a great organization, and they don't try to skim or anything like that. And I'm really honored to be a part of it.
Well, that's awesome, man.
Yeah.
And that's so where did you meet Randy at?
So I think it was 2017, 18. Randy has got his own charity called Extreme Couture GI Foundation.
Yeah.
And what they do is, and I love doing events with Randy, but what they do is, you know, they raise money throughout the year. And if there's a veteran who comes back from the battlefield or whatever it is, if they're struggling or need help or whatever, Randy will write each individual veteran a check for $10,000. Of course, they vet them and make sure that they're worthy of the money or whatever it is.
Well, yeah, you got a bona fide.
Yeah, exactly. So he was holding an Extreme Couture GI Foundation benefit down in Columbus, Georgia, which is right on the Alabama line. And I'll never forget it. I was in Ohio because I just finished playing a string of shows, and a buddy of mine who had booked me on these shows was good friends with Randy, and they had called and said, you know what, Randy needs somebody to play the after party.
Yeah.
You got anybody? And he's like, yeah, man, you know what, Chris Turner, he's a good buddy of mine. He puts on a hell of a show. You need to book him for it. So they booked me for that show. So I went down there and I played the show. Well, Randy, not only is he an actor, an MMA fighter, and every damn thing else, but he's also a songwriter. Right. So he wrote this song called 22 with Eric Landis and Jared Blake.
And see, to look at him, I wouldn't think he'd be a songwriter, you know?
Exactly. I was mind blown too. So I looked at Randy the night before the event, and I was like, hey, man, that song 22, I was like, I've heard it. I love the song. And Darryl Worley ended up cutting it. I was like, but I love the song. I was like, do you have the lyrics for it? I was like, I've got some of the lyrics, but I don't have all of them because I was just listening to a scratch tape. Mm-hmm. And he sent me the lyrics to it. He texted it to me, and I got his number. And when I got his number, I would just ping him every once in a while because I know he's busy, and just stay in touch with him. And after that show, man, we just became really, really good friends after that because of it. That's cool as hell, man. Yeah.
I just, you know, and that was what I was curious about because y'all got together and then that video, and I mean, I'm still stuck on the video because with that wall coming through, I mean, that just all tied in, and it was a lucky break, and I love the song. I mean, it is really touching to me.
Everything lined up that week for the filming. I mean, whether it was him, and I had a buddy of mine from Bryan Motorsports who donated the Jeep for us to use in the video, and
You didn't get to keep it?
No. Randy's a Jeep guy anyway. So it was only fitting to be able to have a Jeep for him to drive, through the video. And the Wall was in town, and we did the EP release party at Doghouse Saloon down in Nashville the night before. And everything just lined up. I mean, it was a great week. It was a great week for filming and camaraderie and just hanging out and just getting to know each other. So my hat will always be off to Randy Couture. And I'm going to be honest with you. I had never, ever watched UFC before that.
Yeah.
Ever. And then I met him, and he's like, don't watch my fights. It's like, dude, you like a 6-time world heavyweight champion. He's like, yeah, just don't watch my fights. Yeah. Only because, if you see him in one light and then see him in another.
Yeah, it's totally different.
Yeah, exactly. You're sitting there watching him beat the piss out of Chuck Liddell, and it's just like, oh, shit, he's a beast.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And then you bring him to the calmer side of him, which him and Chuck are still good buddies to this day, and a lot of people don't understand that. I mean, just because you fight in the ring, you try and get a paycheck.
Yeah.
But they're still great buddies to this day. But to be able to see the humbling side of him versus the warrior side of him in the ring, I mean, it was just like, oh my God, this is so cool.
Oh yeah,
I never would have saw that. And the same thing with my buddy Rich Franklin. He's the same way. He's like, don't watch my fights. I was like, why? He's like, I don't want you to see me with a daggone big ass swole eye, blacked out, or me getting my ass whooped, or me whooping somebody's ass, or whatever the case it may be. And they're exactly right.
A lot of people would be intimidated by that.
Yeah.
I mean, here's my good friend, and he just, slaughtered half of the daggum people in the ring.
Exactly.
And, and I'm like, yeah, good job. I'm going to go over here.
But Randy's still doing some great work, man, and so is Rich. Rich is the vice president of ONE FC out of Malaysia, and he's back and forth out of the country, and we've tried to hook back up over the past 6 or 7 months, but his schedule and my schedule just hadn't lined up. But Randy, I mean, I think they just finished wrapping on Expendables 4. Yes, it's coming.
Oh yeah,
and they did that, and he's part of this new fight league called the Performance Fight League out of New York. It's the PFL.
Yeah.
So he's doing a lot of commentation on that. So it's just trying to line up schedules where we can hang out. But they are two solid dudes, man, and I know that if I ever need anything, all I got to do is hit them up.
That'd be awesome.
They are great people.
All right, now I feel a whole lot better. Sorry, y'all, we had to change a microphone out because for some reason I was getting a buzz and it was driving me nuts, man.
Hey, man, it's all technical difficulties, right?
It's part of a new show.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, see, I can't hear that at all now.
You good now?
I'm good now.
All right.
All right. Man, we need to get like you and Big Vinny and a couple others and just sit around and shoot the shit one day.
We do, man. I told you earlier, man, we need to have a bonfire in your backyard, and we just need to pick and grin and tell stories and put the guitars down and just.
I could do.
Hey, guess what?
I say I could probably get. I think I could mic that. Yeah.
That would be cool. That would be cool as hell if you could mic it.
I can.
And do like a live podcast stream or whatever we had to do, man, because that would, dude, if you could video it and do a live broadcast, that'd be cool as shit.
Well, those are removable.
Oh, yeah. Without a doubt.
So
that'd be really cool.
Yeah, I might have to think about that.
We'll come up here to Portland, Tennessee, and be like, hey, we came to crash the party.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Get back to the sticks where you can actually look up and see the freaking stars, man.
Dude, you was talking about my hometown earlier. The one thing I do miss about it whenever I go home, and I go home probably every 3, 4, 5 months. I don't know. Probably twice a year. I love getting behind a John Deere tractor on the 2-lane.
Yeah.
Because it's so slow.
Oh, yeah.
Here in Nashville, it's 100 miles an hour any which way you go.
Oh, yeah.
All the time. So for that time, I'm like, 35 and people's honking at me? Shit, I'm staying behind the John Deere tractor.
Oh, yeah.
Because I don't ever get this.
Well, see, people don't understand. You go out to L.A.,
right?
Any big place like that, and you could be doing the speed limit, and they're on the horn, waving at you, pointing guns out the window. Get out of the way, you son of, the whole damn 9 yards. Nobody does the speed limit anymore.
No. And it's so sad, man. I think the biggest problem with society right now is not only social media, and iPhone is a blessing and a curse. I mean, we got to have it.
Oh, yeah, it's a double-edged sword, man.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's great for communication back and forth to where you don't have to stop by a payphone and put a quarter in anymore.
Oh, yeah.
But the downfall to it is like everybody has a platform. Everybody has an opinion. And if you are a influential person, if I put it properly, they have a way to utilize said platform to divide the country even more.
Oh yeah.
So if you've got everybody on the same page, it's just like, man, I volunteered for this country, and I am a huge proponent for freedom of speech.
Oh yeah.
But if you're going to speak it, make sure you've got the information to back it up.
Well, that's
and that's the problem with society right now. It's just like they all are so influenced by these, I don't know,
influencers.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
TikTok people of the world and all this other stuff. And I'm like,
well, that's what they're called, influencers.
Yeah.
They do it, and that's how they get paid,
Yeah.
I mean, it's whatever product they got at the time.
Yeah.
This is it, and look, this is great. Buy this product. But it's the same way with...
and like I said, it's a blessing and a curse, because I wish I had Kendall Jenner rocking my merch in one of her posts, man, because I'd be a billionaire tomorrow. But on the flip side of it, I mean, if you're burning the flag, I'm like, I sit there and think about it. If you have not done a day in a third world country, you should not have an opinion on that.
Exactly.
But so many people seem to think that they should, but
it's the way they are, man.
Yeah. And I mean, for me, it's just like, you know what? That's enough about politics. It just pisses me off. And I mean, if you know my music, I don't really talk about politics and stuff on my social media page. All I say is like, listen to my music. You'll know exactly where I stand.
Oh yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. And that's like, Outlaw Nation here lately. They've come up with some really good songs. Have you heard those?
Oh yeah. 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 Outlaw Nation. You talking about the internet radio station?
No. The band with Jesse Howard and a bunch of them.
No,
Dude, you ought to check them out. They're pretty damn good.
Yeah, I need to check them out. Yeah.
Yeah, they've got a lot of pretty much in your face. I think Howard is a veteran. I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that, but I think he is. And he's they've got a lot of good music out there. I really dig it, and it's kind of like a country. Almost like a country rap type thing.
Right.
And it's more dark and luminous in some of the songs that they do, but they're actually pretty good.
And that's so funny that you say that, man, because everybody's like, you sing country? I'm like, well, which version of country do you want? Because, I mean, I don't know that country is country anymore. I mean, it's got so many subgenres, whether it's country rap or country outlaw or country pop or...
Country beer, country whiskey.
Yeah, exactly. Country bonfires and country tailgates. It's just like, what do you want?
Yeah.
But...
I actually asked a guy one time, I said, because he was telling me that he wrote country music. He was a singer-songwriter. That's all he did. And he was a younger guy. And I looked at him and I said, what was that last deer you killed?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't go hunting. So you got a bass boat?
Yeah.
You got a bass boat? No, never been fishing. Okay. And you wrote what?
That'd be about like George Strait writing, which Dean Dillon most of his writing, but George is a great writer in his own right. It'd be about like George saying, what's that song? Amarillo by Morning?
Yeah.
Up from San Antonio. And it's all talking about the rodeo. It's like, well, shit, I ain't never sat on a horse my entire life. But we all know that George is a world-class roper. I mean, that's what he does. I mean, so, going into that or segueing into that, that's the one thing about, this new single I got coming out called Cowboy Like That. And one of the lines in it is like, remember those hardworking John Wayne kind of get her done cowboys.
Yeah.
And that line right there, I'm like, I see all these Walmart cowboys walking around, man, because they watched one episode of Yellowstone. And I'm like, oh my God, are you kidding me?
Dude, have you seen the sales on them damn long coats go up?
Exactly. I'm like, if you have not lived it, don't damn wear it. And I'm trying to find, everybody was asking me, like, for this song, are you going to wear a cowboy hat? I was like, hell no. Why? Because I've lived the life.
Yeah.
Dude, I've stretched more barbed wire, slung more square bells, and I have I can't even tell you what all I've done on a farm, because I grew up on a 400-acre working farm.
Oh, yeah.
And then my buddy had a 700-acre working farm that I grew up on. I was like, I don't have to wear a belt buckle and a cowboy hat to prove I'm a cowboy. All you got to do is look at my resume.
Exactly.
And, you know, I see all these people. True story. No bullshit. I'm fixing to give it to you straight.
All right,
It's
let me have it.
straight talk right now on the Dave Bradley podcast.
Uncensored.
Yeah. So I met this guy pre-COVID that moved from Norco, California, which is part of Orange County, which is right outside of Los Angeles. Born, raised, grew up, all that stuff. Good dude. Love him to death. Never mentioned any names. Great dude. And he had like clean cut, ball cap. He's a construction worker, cargo pants, boots, whatever. COVID hit and Yellowstone got popular. Next time I saw him, because I hadn't seen him in a year, full mullet, full cowboy hat, and a damn world championship belt buckle on his waist. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, I'm like, first off, if any cowboy sees you wearing that world champion belt buckle, oh,
it's on.
it's on. But secondly, if you're wearing a cowboy hat because it's a fashion statement, there's a lot of people before you that has roped more cows, shredded more areas of the earth that deserve better respect than that.
Oh, yeah.
And for me, it's like, I understand it because I've lived it.
Yeah.
So I just show some kind of respect for not necessarily cowboys, but for the craft and where they come from.
Exactly.
And don't try to, that'd be about like me trying to be, I don't know, George Strait and wearing a cowboy hat and a belt buckle and all that stuff on stage. And I'm like, well, it was a good song, so I decided to cut it. You know, but George has lived it. And I can tell you right now, I don't know George personally, but he will not cut anything that does not resonate with his lifestyle. And that's the thing that's what makes him an artist.
That's what makes him the king of country.
Exactly.
I mean,
so,
dude, that man is like, he has been like top tier with me.
Oh yeah.
Forever. You know, and that was one thing I liked about Garth. When Garth come out, Garth's been out there too. Garth has lived a lot.
Oh yeah.
You know, he was, I think one of his jobs was pipe fitting, you know, and I actually knew a guy that met him before he even hit it big when they were building Nissan, the big car plant out there in Smyrna. And he was having a problem with the pipes and everything. Garth come out there and helped him fix it.
Oh, wow.
And that's the story I was told.
I don't doubt it.
You know, I don't either. I mean, I know a lot of people that have talked to him and met him, and they say he's just a hell of a guy.
Yeah.
And he's a worker, man.
And it's funny you bring him up because, you know, love him or hate him, you know, he comes from Oklahoma. The greatest thing about Garth is the fact that he went to Oklahoma State and he got a business degree and a marketing degree.
Yeah.
And he figured out a way, and he knew how to market his product.
Oh, yeah.
And again, going back to independent artists, that is the first key thing that you have to know in the industry is like what separates you from everybody else. It can be your sound.
Yeah.
But if you've got a great product, and that's why I like Florida Georgia Line or the Lax or anybody else in country music, Love Cash or whatever, they found a way to market their product. Luke Bryan's another one.
Yeah.
You know,
and I
don't know him from Adam's House Cat.
No.
But they found a niche and they made it. And for me, it's like, it's all about finishing what you set out to do.
Yeah.
And my hat's off to them. Whether you like bro country or pop country or whatever, they figured out a way to do it. And there's so many of us on the back end of it who are still trying to figure it out to where we find out where our placement spot is.
Yeah. And see, I used to, and this is just being real, you know, just between me and you and whoever's listening right now. But anyway, everybody's listening, hopefully. To be perfectly honest with you, when Luke first came out, I didn't really like him a whole lot. And it was because of the tone of his voice that he uses. But he did do some good songs that wasn't about getting drunk. He did some really good songs. But, man, when his siblings passed away and he got those kids and he went top tier with me.
Yeah.
I have nothing but respect for the dude.
The thing and that's, I don't know how to say it, but without being an asshole. But I think that's exactly what separates him from everybody else is because he's got a heart.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what separated Garth from everybody. I've never seen a guy who can take a 16-year hiatus and come back like it never stopped.
Oh, dude, like a whirlwind.
I was freaking mind blown. I was like, here he is. He's coming back out of retirement. He's going to take up the world by storm, supposedly. Mm-hmm. He might sell out one night. But, dude, he was selling out 6 nights in a stadium, especially Nissan. I was like, oh, my God. The Garth craze is still get there. But the question is how much did they appreciate his old music versus his new music?
Well, that was just it. Mm-hmm. You know, when he come back, I think it was like 3rd or 4th show that he had sold out. I'd read a thing where his album sales started peaking again, you know, so he was bringing in a lot of people that had never really heard him. Because, I mean, when we was listening to him, we were younger, you know.
Right.
And when he hit this time, it was just like, dude, just right up that freaking mountain.
Dude, I won't sugarcoat it. The reason I'm sitting here right here with you today in Portland, Tennessee is because I saw my first show was a Garth show. Yeah. And I saw what he did, and they started, I'll never forget it, man. It was the Colonial, not the Colonial, but it was the Columbia Auditorium in Columbia, South Carolina. Right. And they raised this piano out of the ground. It was a white piano. And they had a guy dressed in like the black and white striped shirt like he wore on Red Stroke, on a Red Strokes album cover. Yeah. And it rose up out of the ground, and he came swinging out of the rafters. Oh, and man. I was just like, oh, my God, he is my hero. Exactly. You'd be like, dude. Yeah, and the weird thing is like we get our hair cut by the same barber, like down the road. Yeah. You know, and honestly, he gets his hair cut at Great Clips. Yeah. And I ran it. I didn't run into him, but our cohesive stylist was she was cutting his hair beforehand and mine afterwards, and I didn't even recognize him. Yeah. I got my head buried in my phone because I had emails and text messages and all that stuff I had to answer, and I walked over to the chair. She's like, that was Garth. I was like, are you kidding me? She's like, no. And I walked outside because I just wanted to tell him, hey, dude, listen, you changed my life. That's the reason I'm here. But he was in his car, and I wasn't going to try to flag him down or anything. Yeah. But yeah, that's my Garth story. It was pretty cool.
I love it.
Yeah. I saw him driving off. I was like, it's like, you got to be kidding me, man. Really? That's just my luck, man. It's just like I tell everybody, I will get signed by a record label when the world comes to an end. And oddly enough, I was peaking with If You Drink and everything that was going on with Randy and all the articles. And about that time, COVID hit. Like, you got to be,
dude, it fucking,
you got to be shitting me.
Yeah, but it did it to everybody, man.
It did. I was like, it couldn't come at a worse time. I was like, you got to be kidding me. So now you're a year in seclusion, and then all that hype that you built up trying to make it happen, and then it just all falls. Oh, yeah, every bit of it. With that year in seclusion, it's like, well, okay, well, I guess I got to start over.
Yeah, I mean, the only lucky break I got was, you know, I was driving a truck. Yeah. And we didn't stop. We kept going. And, you know, you had to get the toilet paper there. You had to get whatever thing everybody else was selling out of. And it was a lot of work.
Yeah, like I told you earlier, man, my daddy's a truck driver. And, well, he's retired now. He's 67. And that's a song for another time. But the one thing that irritates me is like if I'm in the car with somebody and I'm carpooling or whatever the case may be. Somebody's like, man, I wish the truck would get over. I'm like, dude, damn stuff you got on your legs and your shirts and all that stuff. Truck drivers are responsible for getting it from port A to port B or wherever it may go. So don't hate on the truck drivers. They're just doing a job.
And trying to.
Yeah, exactly. I think it was a cool, and truck drivers and bus drivers alike will probably disagree with this, but I think it was a cool law when they said, hey, you can only drive for, 10 hours?
11 hours.
11 hours, and then you got to take a break? Right. Because I remember when my dad was an over-the-road truck driver, man. If he could drive for 24 hours, he'd drive it. He'd drive it and be gone.
Well, I had
but that is no good for anybody that's on the road.
No.
Yeah.
And then I had when I was, I don't know, I guess I've been driving about 4 or 5 years, and I got to the point where I was running 2 logbooks, and I would throw one in the bunk. That was the real one. The fake one was up front with me in case I got pulled over, And there was a lot of times, man, I was running so daggum hard, I throwed them both in the bunk. I said, screw it, I'll take the ticket, because of what they're going to do. They're going to write you a ticket, and they're going to shut you down. And back then, it was 8 hours. Right. So I would get shut down for 8 hours.
But a lot of people don't realize, man, you get paid by the load, right?
No, you get paid by the mile.
By the mile.
It all depends. It actually all depends.
The mile of the load, man. 8 hours off the road, man. I mean, 8 hour trip. I mean, that's from here in Nashville down to Tampa. Yeah. I mean, that's a lot of mileage.
Yeah. And I mean,
what is it? 50? Is it standard IRS deduction? We're going off into the side of I don't know. But either way, you understand what I'm saying, and I'm sure everybody else out there that's truck drivers understands it too. But it's jacked up.
We took and we got paid by the mile, and of course back then I was getting paid 32 cents a mile.
Oh wow,
which ain't shit.
No,
not in today's terms.
That won't even change the oil.
Back then it was pretty good money,
Was you a private hauler or was you employed?
No, I actually worked for a company.
Oh, okay.
And
so that was just your base rate. Like, we'll pay you 32 cents a mile, take the fireworks from Charleston Harbor all the way up to Seattle, Washington.
Or, well, I mean, the carrier I was running for, oh, Lord. We hauled pornographic magazines.
Man, I wish I'd have been a teenager and I could have hijacked you on the side of the road and be like, hey, pay dirt. I'm going to stick these in between my mattresses.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it was crazy.
Oh, yeah.
But I would drive, I'd leave on probably about a Sunday afternoon I would usually left out about 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and I would drive straight through down to Miami, put off 5 stops, come back up to Hollywood, Florida.
Right.
Get reloaded, take a nap, and then get up and go all the way up to Maryland.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's a haul.
Yeah.
But, I mean, when you're only working for mileage, man, I mean, it's you
got to run
do
it.
what you got to do, yeah.
If the wheels ain't turning, you ain't earning.
Mm-hmm. I'm sure that nowadays, since they've readjusted that with, like, the new laws that are in place, I'm sure they readjusted the pay scale.
Yeah. Well, I mean, a lot of people hate how they've done that and made everybody run electronic logs.
Right.
Everybody hates it. Me, for one, I'm glad they done it.
Yeah.
Because there was a lot of us out there doing stuff we had to do to keep those wheels running, and we shouldn't have been doing it.
So whenever you was running by the mile, was you 1099 or was you a W-2?
No, it's W-2.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And see, the weird part about it is trucking, for some reason, and it's still true to this day, trucking didn't pay overtime.
Oh, wow. And that's why you had so many people running 24 hours a day. Yep. Makes sense. I did not know that.
Yeah, they can now legally, with the electronic logs, if you're not driving full time, 11 hours.
Yeah.
You've got 11 hours you can drive, but you got 14 total on duty you can do. And a lot of these companies out there are pushing these guys 14 hours a day.
So I'll tell you one of the coolest things in my childhood, man. My dad, he drove for Central Trucking Company. Mm-hmm. And he came home, and I hadn't seen him in a couple weeks because he was all over the country. And he's like, hey, I got to go down to Charleston. I got to drop off a load of fireworks. That's the reason my fireworks phrase a while ago.
Yeah.
And I was like, hey, Dad, can I go? It's just like every kid in every country song. It's like, hey, Dad, can I go? And,
anybody that's seen Smokey in the band, it would be like, I want to go.
And he was like, no, we can't do that. And my mama was like, hey, take him with you.
Yeah.
So she kind of whispered in his ear, and I climbed up, and there was a cab over a Freightliner. No, I'm lying to you. It was a cab over a Peterbilt.
Yeah.
And we had like one of those short box containers. It was green. It was. And it was only a 4-hour run down to Charleston because of where I lived at in 96, which was in the upstate.
Yeah.
And we got down there, and we got about 10 miles out from the harbor. He's like, hey, when we get down here, you have got to get inside that sleeper bed, and you got to be quiet.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, what do you mean? And he's like, well, if they find out you're in here with me, they're not going to let me drop this load because you're underage and all this other stuff. And he's just like, just get back there and be quiet.
Oh, yeah.
And, dude, being a singer-songwriter and being a Marine is just like, quiet is not my strong suit. But I did, man, because my dad let me go with him. I climbed up in that cab over, and I was quiet as I could possibly be for about 30 minutes, long enough for him to drive through the port, drop the load, and get out.
Oh, yeah.
And that was one of the best times of my entire life because I just got one-on-one time with my dad.
Oh, yeah. Out there on the road, man.
And in 4 hours, and it was there had actually been a hurricane that had came through not too long after that, or something, or a tropical storm or something like that. And we was riding up. We was coming up. I think it's 26. No, it was 95 to 26.
Right.
And you could see all the damage. And I was just sitting there. I was like, "Hey, Dad, looks like the interstate had a bad day." And he was
real
like,
bad day.
Yeah, he was like, "Yeah, son, I think it did."
Oh, yeah. But see, that's that memory. That's that memory, dude. You keep forever.
Yeah, it is, man.
I love it.
And that's, that's where I'm at, man. I grew up, we didn't have much growing up, but there's one thing that we did have, we always tried to be on the same page. And, even though Dad wasn't around a lot, we made it work.
Yeah.
Whenever he came home, he tried to be there, but I mean, long enough for, hey, kiss you on the head, eat supper, and it's like, hey, I got to go again. But the life of an over-the-road driver, man. I mean, it wasn't just like regional. Yeah. This was national. So he'd be gone for 2 or 3 weeks and then come back in and be like, hey, well, again, I got a load of fireworks on the truck.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what it is about fireworks and 18-wheelers, man, but that was the story I always got.
Well, see, back in when I was driving, it was kind of like you was the cowboy of the road,
Oh, yeah. I call them asphalt cowboys.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And a lot of people don't understand this, and maybe they can learn something from this right here. But you take the schedule of a truck driver.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody needs to learn and remember, guess who's carrying the equipment and the staging and all the other stuff? The truck drivers are. Then you got the bus drivers driving the coaches.
Right.
And you guys, when y'all get on a tour and y'all are out just as much as a daggone truck driver.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt. And the biggest thing about it is like, no offense to the fans. We love y'all. We appreciate the hell out of you, man, because you guys are the ones who allow us to do what we love to do and help us live our dream. But the one thing about it is like, you show up at least 5-6 hours before a show.
Exactly.
You got to load in. And even though you've got a crew, if you're an artist, you got radio interviews, you've got TV interviews. I did a show last year to where I had to show up the day early, and my crew had to come down the day after because I had to be on set at 5 o'clock in the morning for the local news.
Yeah,
talking about the show and promoting the show, and all the crowd sees is the downbeat the lights.
Yeah,
there's nothing wrong with that because that's what we do. No. And that's the life that we chose,
and that's what they pay for.
Right, exactly. But I just want it to be clear that there's so much more that goes into it, and there's a lot of people behind the scenes that do not get the credit for it that I myself as an artist or my guitar player or my band leader or whatever the case may be, they don't get the credit for it. Well, like today, I was on a phone conversation today. We got a show April 15th in Ohio at the Vern Rife Center.
Yeah.
And we're doing it with a buddy of mine named Rick Farrell. And we were on the phone today talking about hospitality riders and tech riders and what the stage plot's going to look like. And, you know, we're constantly doing stuff to make sure that what we do for the paying audience, they get their money's worth.
Exactly.
And a lot of people fail to realize that. And I just want it to be known, like, even though even though a lot of people think that we're just sitting up here doing our thing and writing songs, we actually put forward the extra mile to make sure that we are bringing the best show that we can possibly bring, because you spend your hard-earned money, man. And I'll tell you right now, my listening audience is probably 30 to 45 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And they work damn hard for the money.
Oh yeah,
they really do. So I see that because I've done that too, and I want to make sure that everything that I do, I'm actually delivering what they expect of me.
Oh yeah.
Anything less than that is, I mean, it's just failure on my part.
Yeah, and I would, me personally, if I was an artist and I was up there, well, I mean, I did lights and stuff, you know?
Right.
And what my biggest thrill was the whole thing, because I mean, a lot of these clubs, they'll stiff you on the money, especially if you're into the production side.
I got a story for you. Keep going.
But I mean, they'll stiff you on the money. Yeah, basically done the show for free, but it didn't really matter to me because I wanted to do it for the people that were in the crowd.
Right.
I wanted to see the hands up in the air. I wanted to see them rocking. And when I could do something with the lights that they hadn't seen in a small club, you know, I'm bringing big stage, small club. And
T-racks all around the stage, staging, and
the movers, the whole 9 yards,
exactly,
you know.
Yeah.
And I'm up there moving everything by hand. I'm not using computers.
That's right.
And just to hear that crowd go ape shit. When the lights, it all worth it. I mean, when the lights done a certain way and it was on point with the guy on stage, man, it was worth it sometimes not to even get paid.
Mm-hmm.
I'd get pissed off, but then I'd remember that crowd reaction.
It's better to be pissed off than pissed on, right?
Well, it depends on how kinky you are.
Yeah, I know, right? So,
all right, look, give me your story. I want to hear it.
All right, so here's the story. I got a couple stories, man, but I'll go to this one. I was in town about 3 or 4 years, and I got a call to do 2 shows in Charleston, West Virginia. They were scaled down acoustic shows. Mm-hmm. And then we were going to go to Columbus, Ohio to play a VFW the next day. So it's like, okay, it's a Friday and a Saturday night show and a Sunday at a VFW. And I was like, I don't know a lot of clubs that book a show on Sunday, but if that's what you're saying, we'll do it. Because I was working with a promoter at the time. Right. So I drive from Nashville to West Virginia. I get a call 45 minutes from the venue. Hey, man, you know what? We had a gas leak and you can't perform tonight. I was like,
oh, hell.
Are you kidding me? It's like I drove 9 hours.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And you're beat already.
Yeah, exactly. And they were supposed to put us up in an apartment above the venue.
Right.
And I mean, it's just it's a club and
it's a flop house.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm like, okay, that's fine. So I start calling the promoter. I'm like, hey, I was just told that I can't play here tonight. My guys are paid because regardless whether I get paid or not, I'm a good businessman. My guys get paid.
Oh, yeah. You got to take care of the crew, man.
It comes out of my pocket, they get paid.
Yep.
So we get there, and she was like, well, hey, I don't know what to tell you. So I stopped. I stopped at the bar that had the gas leak, knocked on the door. Guy came out. I was like, look, dude, I've already paid my guys. I got 3 days on the road with these guys, and it's not cheap. I need to find somewhere to find some money.
Yeah.
To kind of compensate for what I got going on. He's like, well, drive about 80 miles north to Amity, Pennsylvania.
Oh, yay.
I was like, okay. He's like, there's a bar up there. It's called Rinky Dinks.
Okay.
And it's in a holler. Literally in a holler.
Oh,
and
damn.
I pull up to it, and it's a cool bar, man. I mean, it's like this nice venue. It's what you'd expect in a holler in Pennsylvania.
Well, yeah.
You know? All hardwood floors, all this stuff. You walk in the door, it's like, little Jimmy Dickens played here. I was like, okay, cool.
Yeah, well, that's something.
Man, we pulled into that place, and we played for 4 hours for tips, and I loaded my sound in.
Mm-hmm.
And I made $80.
Damn.
Tips. And that was my compensation for the night. And my guys were making double that, right? I'm like, well, I salvaged some of it until it's like, well, shit, we can't stay upstairs and we can't stay in the above apartment. So I got to rent a hotel room.
Yeah, there went that.
Yeah, I had to rent a hotel room for the three of us. So we go back the next night and we had agreed upon a price for me to play a show.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, I'm going to tell you what. We got done playing the show that night. I had a buddy of mine who drove 4 hours. I was in the Marine Corps with just to see our show. And I sent him a picture last night because he's coming to Ohio. And I told him, I was like, long way from Ohio, buddy. And I sent him a picture of the bar. And we played that show, man. And then he didn't pay me. So we stayed in the above apartment. The next night, I was like, dude, I got to get on the road. I told him that night, I was like, I got to get on the road because I got to be in Columbus the next morning.
Right.
Columbus, Ohio. So I come downstairs and I'm like, man, I'm pushed for time, and I'm banging and banging and banging and banging and banging on the door. And he finally answers the door and he comes up to me and he's like, I didn't have a good night last night. I'm going to cut your pay by half. I was like, dude, this is not what we agreed upon. Well, I'm sorry. This is all I got.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, just give it to me. I'll take off.
Yeah.
I wasn't trying to go to jail, even though I've been to jail. A couple times.
And it almost would have been worth going to jail after that.
That's a song for another time. But we left there and we went to Columbus, Ohio, right, to play this VFW.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, all right, we're going to make up for it tonight. We're going to do our thing, have a good time. Downbeat was like at 4 o'clock or something like that. Because, you know, veterans, you know, drinking in it's football season, going to have a good time. Get there. The actual commander of the VFW was not there.
Oh, hell.
So I'm talking to the door guy. we don't have you on the books. What?
Oh, hell.
So I called the promoter again. I was like, you told me whenever I asked you about playing on Sunday at a VFW in the middle of Columbus, Ohio, to where you was routing me back to Nashville, that I had a gig. Well, call this guy. He's got the number. I called the guy, didn't answer the phone. They called the guy. He didn't answer the phone. And I looked at him and said, you know what? I'm out.
Yeah.
So a weekend that cost me a little more than $1,000. I think I didn't clear anything, but I think my gross for that weekend was like $350. But I'm going to tell you something. To this day, 100-mile radius outside of Nashville, I don't do a show without a contract.
Oh, you got to.
I do not do it. But I was just cutting my teeth.
Yeah.
So I'm like, West Virginia, woo, let's go. Ohio,
Oh, yeah.
woo, let's go. And I got burned, and I was like, never again.
Yeah.
And to this day, I won't do it. If I don't have a contract, I don't do it.
Oh, yeah.
And it's not me trying to be a diva or a butthole, to be politically correct. It's just more or less about me trying to cover my six, and the Marine Corps taught me better than that.
Yeah, and you've got to, because, dude, honestly, when I was doing the lights and sound all around Nashville, you know, there was times, you know, it was handshake and you know, and I help them out and do all this stuff. And then the next thing you know, end of the night, where in the hell's the guy that made the deal with me?
Yeah.
Oh, he went home an hour ago. Well, where's my money?
Mm-hmm.
What money? And
crazy.
I've got 4 clubs that was downtown Nashville and was downtown Nashville.
Probably for a good reason.
Yeah. But I got stuck for about $6,000.
Oh, that's a hard daggum nut to crack.
And that was a lot of light shows and a lot of sound. And I mean, it was just crazy. You know, the only club, and I've got to get a shout out on this. The only club that actually took care of me was the Eager Beaver down there.
Oh, yeah.
And their sound guy, I can't remember if he was in jail or what he was, you know, but he didn't have a sound guy, and it's New Year's Eve. And a friend of mine called me, and she's like, David, he really needs a sound guy. Is there any way you can give him a hand? So, yeah, I'll do it. I went down there, and he told me, he said, you know, I'll give you such and such amount, and I'll kick you a little bit at the end of the night just for helping me out. And I'm like, all right, cool. I get up there, and there's like a 1969 PV board.
Woo.
Yeah. Now, don't get me wrong. I cut my teeth on them PV boards, and I love them.
Dude, my whole system now is still passive because I don't trust electronics.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But I get up there and I'm playing with it. The band comes in. I'm starting to get them mic'd up, and I'm back there at the board, and I'm like, okay, why are we coming through the monitors and not through the mains? And everything I could do, I could not get the mains to work on that board. I'm calling everybody. Dude, you got a board I can borrow? Dude, you got a board? Because my board was out at another show.
Right.
And nobody had a board. Thankfully, the sound system he had was powered. Mm-hmm. So only thing I did was, hey.
Turn them on?
No, I ran it mono, believe it or not.
Okay, yeah.
I did one side to the mains and one side to the freaking monitors. That's the only way I could do it.
I had that problem last night, man. I was playing a show in Murfreesboro, and, all the speakers are powered, but they got one of these Bose systems. It was a little small private party.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sitting there like, why is it not coming out?
Yeah.
I've got it. It's all, I didn't have it wired right, but I'm looking at the board and I'm like, everything seems to be wired right, but I'm not getting any signal out of the Bose tower and the small little, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm seeing these two speakers over here and I'm like, why are these not hooked up as monitors? And then I look at it and I'm like, something ain't right.
Mm-hmm.
Come to find out the house cords, horrible.
Yeah.
So I pulled it out just a little bit and then sound started coming out and I was like, okay, we're good.
Yeah. Sometimes you got to go up there and give it a little twist, man.
Yeah, exactly. But it all looked like brand new equipment. But I want to show you something real quick, all right?
Yeah.
I've never done this on camera I've told the story a couple times that I've never done this. So
okay.
I'm fixing to show you something.
All right.
So I'm going to lift this up. Stand by.
All right. And you're going to tear my house up.
Just to kind of go back to where we were about shows and whatnot. So do you see this?
Yep.
It's $3.
$3.
I want you to take a guess of what that is.
Your pay from a club.
That is my first paycheck in Nashville.
$3.
Same exact $3 from 2011 at a place called Star Cafe right outside of Goodlettsville.
Yeah.
And oddly enough, the woman who owned it went to high school with my daddy. I had no idea until I started talking to her about where I was from and what was going on.
Right.
She's like, well, come back in here tonight. You can sing for your supper. Good food. Great food. Had a double cheeseburger.
Hey.
Like, shh, woo, good stuff. But I sat there for 3 hours and played for 2 people, and I made $3.
$3.
And it stays in my guitar because every time I open up the pick case, I can look at it and remember where I came from.
And that's a damn good story.
Exactly. I mean, like, I've been down to nothing in my time in Nashville. I mean, just because trying to make it work. And there's no way in hell I would ever go into my guitar case to get this to buy a Pepsi Cola or a can of Chew or whatever the case may be.
Hell
because
no.
it means that much to me.
Oh,
so
yeah.
that is my very first paycheck.
That is awesome. I've
Never done that before.
and that's
Talked about it, but never done it.
Yeah. And that's cool as hell, man. I mean, that keeps you grounded, keeps you real.
It does. And I mean, I go out and people are like, well, you've done this show and you've done this, or we don't have a budget for it. And I'm like, well, you know what? If you're going to, give me 1 second. I got to keep that $3 safe.
As we struggle with the guitar case.
Yeah, I know, right? So, and whenever people's like, well, it's exposure. It's like, dude, let me show you exposure. Let me pull the $3 out of my guitar case. That was my first paycheck.
Mm-hmm.
And I agree, when you first get to town, you got to do what you got to do, man. But there has to be a certain threshold to where you cut it off.
Yeah.
You have to. Because if you don't, I learned a long time ago from my wife and my mom. It's like, you teach people how to treat you. So
Yeah.
if you let people take advantage of you, they'll take advantage of you.
Yeah.
But in my case, it's like, literally in my case.
Yeah, exactly.
Pun intended.
Oh yeah.
In my case, it's like, you know what? We go lights out. We're 100 miles an hour from downbeat to the lights go up till they go out.
Mm-hmm.
So with that, not that we're trying to overcharge anybody, man, but we work really, really hard. And if there's anything I want anybody to take from this podcast and what we're talking about is like, respect your artists, respect their craft, because they're trying to make sure that you have a great time for what you are out there to see.
Exactly.
And don't try to take advantage of it just because they're trying to cut their teeth.
Yeah.
You know?
Exactly.
The music, at the end of the day, it is a business. The music has to pay for the music.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, you know, it was like me and you was talking about earlier, you know, I still got that day job. You still got a day job.
Oh, I do. I work music full time and I got a full time day job.
Exactly. And then I do the podcast as soon as I get home.
Mm-hmm.
You know, whether we're recording a show or streaming one, or, well, I'm trying to get everything set up better for the streaming. But, I mean, it takes up so much of my time.
Yeah.
You know, I usually get to bed, about 11 o'clock at night. I'm back up at 5.
Mm-hmm.
Or I try to get back up at 5. Sometimes it's 5:30. This morning it was almost 6, but
oh, I get it, man. I can't tell you how many times I've came in off the road and then I go to church in the mornings on Sundays and they ask me, it's like, what happened last night? I was like, well, I was out till 4 o'clock in the morning. I got 2 hours of sleep and now I'm here serving.
yeah,
Because we sin on Friday and Sunday morning we pray.
exactly.
Period. It's like, well, what do you mean by that? I'm like, well, I got to serve some way. And if it's me serving through music, and oddly enough, with me being an artist, whenever I started playing in the worship band, it was a huge change for me, man, because I had to step back and just play guitar while everybody else sang.
Yeah.
And I'm a showman. That's what I do. You know, there's probably 1,000 singers in Nashville that will sing my ass under the table. But you know what? I guarantee you there's only 4 or 5 that'll outwork me on a stage.
Oh,
I will take that to the bank. Nobody will ever take that from me because I entertain. I'm an entertainer.
Yeah. And that's what kills me about some of these younger ones, man. I mean, they're just like, you'll see them and you'll hear them.
Right.
But they're stationary.
Right.
They're not working the stage. They're not working the crowd. They're not, you know, trying to get the crowd into what they're doing. Mm-hmm. And, you know, I'll tell anybody that's, you know, starting out in the music industry or whatever, you got to communicate with your fans besides singing them a freaking song.
Right.
You've got to get with them.
And that's what irritates me the most about social media and TikTok and all these guys getting signed off TikTok. Nothing wrong with it. It is a great platform because it is a visual world.
Yeah.
But these guys will get signed, man, because they got 500,000 followers and sing a great George Strait cover song or George Jones. And then when they get signed, they'll get the one single that got them signed. Mm-hmm. And the labels have never, ever seen them perform. And I'm like, why are you signing this guy?
Exactly.
Seen the guy live, and I'm like, he can carry a tune, and he's got grit in his damn voice, and he can sing.
Oh, yeah.
But has he ever been in front of 20,000 people to make them go crazy?
No.
And I've been in front of 16,000, and I've been in front of 6. And I performed for 6 like I performed for 16,000. Mm-hmm. I mean, because those 6 people that showed up to my show, they took time out of their day to come see what I've got going on. And for me, I don't care if it's one person in the crowd. I will play my damn heart out for them because I appreciate it.
Yeah. And not use auto-tune.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. If I'm flat, hey, tell me I'm flat. Then I can go back, and I always record every show to where I can go back and work on it, to where I'm like, I know why I was flat on that note. I was too involved in performing on this end and doing this trick, or, you know, it's like, well, I probably shouldn't have been sharp here because I was trying to sing from my head. I was trying to sing from my gut instead of my head voice. I probably should have hit my head voice right there. Yeah. So I use it, and being a football player and being in the Marine Corps, I always revisit tape to where I'm like, okay, what do I need to work on? Yeah. So I continuously work on my act, work on my production, work on my writing, do anything I can, because for me, man, there's nothing else. I have to have it. It's like a drug. It's my drug of choice.
Amen.
And like he was talking about, like you show up and you've got like 6,000 people that you're doing production for, and somebody's going to stiff you on the bill.
Mm-hmm.
You're still going to do it. And the reason for it, because there is not a bigger rush or a bigger adrenaline rush that will ever take place than watching a live crowd of 30,000 people respond to what you actually created. And as creators, that's what we do.
Exactly.
You know, and it's not about, you know, I think it can be about that when you're younger.
Yeah.
But as you get older, it's like, for me, it's not about me anymore.
Yeah.
It's about the crowd, the legacy, and leaving something behind to where it's like, hey, you know what? Everybody told me it was a pipe dream and I couldn't do it. But guess what?
You're here.
Damn it, I did it.
Exactly.
And for me, that's all that matters to me right now. It's like, I got to finish.
Mm-hmm.
There is no, you know, the money that comes along with it. We all want to hit the lottery, right?
Oh, yeah.
And that's the biggest stigma in Nashville. It's like, well, it's like hitting the lottery. Well, it's really not. It's a business.
Yeah.
You build the product, you make the product. Once you have the product, you market the product, you advertise the product. And then once you do that, you take the product out, the demand goes up, the supply goes down, the price tag goes up.
And you get the biggest rush in the world.
Exactly. And I would not trade anything for it in the world, man. I did that show with Trace Adkins back in 19, man, and we played for 20,000 people that night. And it was the biggest rush I think I've ever had in my life. It was freaking ridiculous. Other than Cody Johnson.
Well, I can imagine.
I think we played for, and it was right when Cody first started. I think it was 7,000 people that night. Radio was involved, and it's just like, oh my God, this is like really happening. Hold my beer, watch this.
Tell you what, I want you to do a shot with me because I think you're a hell of a guy. I'm glad I met you.
Up to it, down to it, the hell with those that can't do it. We'll be friends until the end, so Peter out or Peter in.
There you
Cheers.
go. Ah.
But yeah, man, I love it.
Damn, that's good.
It's really good. That's double-aged.
Mm-hmm. We got to do a chaser after that.
But yeah, man, I'm really excited about the new music that's coming and what we're doing with Warriors on Mission. And, you know,
I can't wait till the new song comes out.
Yeah, it's going to be great. I'm really excited about it. I mean, we collaborated with Smo on All in the Same Boat, and we got a really huge, I know it don't sound like a lot, but as an independent, man, we got to pay for those promotion dollars.
Oh, yeah.
So I think we were almost at 100,000 streams with it. So, and Smo's been great too. I mean, shit, I'm supposed to go down there on his farm and write with him in the near future.
Yeah.
But it's just, you know, everybody's like, well, it's a lottery ticket and it's all about who you know. I'm like, it's really not about who you know. It's about lining yourself up with the right circle to where that circle knows other people who are in the industry, to where they believe in what you're doing, to where they can help you advance your career.
Oh, yeah.
So it's not about like, I will say this, and this is no lie. So my buddy Jeff Huskins, if you're out there and you're watching, man, he is the mixing and the mastering engineer for BMG. Mm-hmm. So he does everything from Eric Church, Laney Wilson, Jason Aldean. Trouble with the Heartbreak was his first #1 that he mixed on.
Yeah.
And, you know, he had heard about what I was doing, and I was playing a Veterans Day show back in 2021. Yeah, 2 years ago. And he's one of the founding members of Little Texas. And he had heard about me.
Nice.
So I'm sitting there and I'm doing my show, and I get done with it, and he walks up to me and taps me on the shoulder, and he's like, hey, Chris, great set, man. I was like, hey, man, I appreciate it. I had a couple T-shirts and bottle openers and shit out there.
Yeah.
Like, man, you want me to sign a T-shirt for you or bottle opener or whatever? He's like, no, man. He's just like, I came out to see you, and I want to tell you had a great show. It's like, okay. I was like, but if you want a bottle opener, I'll give it to you. He's like, no, you don't know who I am. I was like, no. I was like, what's your name? He's like, my name's Jeff Huskins. I was like, well, good to meet you.
Mm-hmm.
He said, I work for BMG, and I want you in my office tomorrow at noon. Can you be there?
Awesome.
And my eyes got about that big around.
Oh, yeah, I can imagine.
Because, I mean, BMG is literally the house that Aldean built.
Yeah.
Because when BMG bought Broken Bow, where Aldean's at, they merged, and part of the deal was like, you can buy me, but you're going to put a house in Nashville for BMG.
Right.
That's how BMG became, and it's in the old section of Nashville where CMA used to be. So now CMA moved over to the CSAC building, and BMG's on that corner because they tore it down and built it.
Yeah.
So I went in there, and Jeff was like, dude, I love what you're doing. I love everything about it.
Sweet.
He's like, so what do you say we do some recording together? It's like, sure. So then he books a session for me over at Soundstage, which is Black River, which is Ronnie Millsap's old studio.
Right.
And man, we sit there and we cut, and it was like magic. And then I go in the vocal booth and I'm singing these songs, and Cowboy Like That, it just comes out, and I'm like, I've never felt more or less under pressure, because for me it was like, I haven't made it, but from a production world to where there's somebody who's in the industry that gave me some kind of credibility because they love what I did.
Mm-hmm.
I started singing those songs, and I was just like, there's no pressure now. I found the guy that I needed.
Yeah.
And we've become like really, really close friends, man. And he's one of my best friends in town. And it's just that. Now everybody's going to be like, well, why ain't you signed with BMG? Well, I made it pretty plain and clear to Jeff. I'm like, I don't want to be signed. If you want to pitch me, pitch me.
Yeah.
But that's not where I want to be. I want to be able to control my business, have my team around me that I trust, that I know has my best interests at heart.
Exactly.
And I don't want to be just another artist on a label to where if the single flops, I get shelved.
Yeah.
I want to have the control of my own demise.
You know.
And that's particularly why I have not been pitched. But I go up there, I write at BMG, I go in there and I talk to Jeff, and I go into the studio, I hear new music like Laney. Right before Laney popped, I heard that whole new record. And I looked at Jeff, I was like, dude, she's going to freaking blow up in like a month. He was like, yeah, she is. And she did.
Oh, yeah.
Because I heard, what was it, Watermelon Moonshine? And I was like, oh, my God.
Yep.
And that's where it all hit.
Yeah,
So,
and then that the Heart Like a Truck, it is blowed up big time.
And I've never, and I'll say it, and as endearing as it can be, I've never been a Hardy or a Morgan Wallen fan.
Mm-hmm.
But whenever Hardy co-wrote that song with Laney, Wait in the Truck,
Yeah.
I heard that, and I heard the writing, because I'm a lyric snob, man. I love good lyrics.
Mm-hmm.
They freaking destroyed that song. And then Hardy's new record, The Mockingbird and the Crow, came out.
Mm-hmm.
And with me being a vet, man, I always listen to whatever I can to try to relate to it.
Mm-hmm.
He cut a song called Red and featured Morgan Wallen on it.
Yeah.
Dude, I'm going to tell you right now, that song Red is freaking it. It is so good. I mean, I'm just like the writing standpoint, the melody, the creativity, the delivery of it, the mix of it. I'm just like, oh, my God.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah. I mean, it completely blew my mind. And now it's just like I'm fiending to try to find more songs like that, because half of it is a rock and roll album, and the other half is country music. And it's very, very creative from a creator standpoint, to where it's like, hey, I got two genres.
Yeah.
Here's a country record, here's a rock record. Another guy, a lot of people may not like him, but Ryan Upchurch.
Yeah.
Upchurch is freaking killing it, because he can sing rock, he can sing country, he can sing rap, and he always releases all three genres, to where it's like,
You got your choice.
yeah. And I didn't stumble upon Ryan Upchurch until I got ready to cut my American Made record. And the only reason I did that, because I Googled to see if there was a record out there called that. Mm-hmm. He had a song called American Made off of one of his records.
Okay.
And then I listened to it, and I was like, I can get down with this. And then I was like, what is this, American Made? And it's just like Holler Boys.
Yeah.
And I hit Holler Boys, and it was just like, damn, that's different.
Oh, yeah.
So it's a completely different genre, and that's what separates him from everybody else. And he's another business mogul, man. I mean, it's
When I first seen Hardy and his whole, appearance and everything, I'm like, is he another wannabe country rapper? I mean, what exactly is this? And that's his outward appearance. That's the way he kind of looked to me.
right.
And then these songs he's been putting out on that record, man, I mean, it's just like,
It's ridiculous.
dude, it was wild.
But a lot of these young songwriters that come through town, they're like, so what do you think about my writing? I'll never forget this. I was playing. There's a bar downtown off Charlotte Avenue. A friend of mine owns it. It's called Bold Patriot. Very patriotic bar.
Yeah.
And I was playing a writer's round one night, and I only play writer's rounds whenever I've written new songs and I want to try them out.
Right.
Whenever I first got to town, I'd play them every time I could just to network and meet people.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's more or less like, okay, let me see what they do.
Yeah.
So I was out there one night, and there was two, I call them kids. They were probably about 10 years my junior.
Mm-hmm.
And they was playing these songs, and there was this one chick beside me. She wrote a great song, delivered it well on stage, and came off stage, and she was like, "What'd you think about my songwriting?" I was like, "I love it." She was like, "What'd you think about my song?" I was like, "It's a great pitch for Taylor Swift." She was like, "Well, I think I'm going to keep that to myself." I was like, "Are you sure?"
You might want to give it to Taylor Swift.
She said, "Why?" I was like, "Because you wrote it like Taylor, you sounded like Taylor, and you delivered it like Taylor."
Yeah.
I was like, "If there's one piece of advice I can give to you as a 21-year-old, my advice to you is like, there's already a Taylor Swift." Mm-hmm. And then the other kid came up to me, and he sounded and wrote and looked just like Morgan Wallen. He's like, "What do you think?" I was like, "I'll tell you the same thing I told her. There's already a Morgan Wallen."
Yeah.
Nashville does not want a doppelganger or a clone.
No.
You have got to find your way and make it different.
You got to be unique.
I was like, but your lyrics, your melody, and what you're doing is great. But those are great pitch songs. You need to find out who you are as an artist.
Right. And I think a lot of people, when they do write songs and stuff, it's like, it may be inadvertent, but sometimes they'll get somebody in their head.
Oh, yeah.
When they're writing it. And then next thing you know, well, you wrote the perfect song for this person. It ain't for you, but it's for them.
And the bad thing is like, it's such a cookie cutter industry now, man, to where every melody sounds exactly the same.
Oh, yeah.
So if you get that melody in your head, it sounds like an earworm. So every time you pick up a guitar to write, it's just like, well, I love that daggum Sand in My Boots song by Morgan Wallen. I'm going to try to do that.
Uh-huh.
But if you're on the outside looking in, you don't know any better.
Yeah.
But when you get to town, it's like, oh, these guys are writing like pros.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, it came for me the first 5 years I was in town. I tried to do everything else, everything that everybody else was doing. Because I left the Marine Corps. I learned how to write and play guitar in the Marine Corps. So I left the Marine Corps, went back home for about, I don't know, a couple of years. And I was like, I'm moving to Nashville. If I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it.
Right.
So I got up here and I was trying to be Al Dean and Luke Bryan and Randy Houser and all these guys. But my best friend died in 2015. And the guitar case I just pulled out, when he died, his son gave me this guitar and this guitar case. And it's the only guitar I play on stage now.
Yeah.
Specifically because we used to play campfires together.
Yeah.
So when he died, and then my brother died 12 months later, and they both died from cancer, I was in a really, really bad spot.
Oh, yeah. Cancer ain't nothing to mess
No,
with, dude.
and it does not discriminate.
Oh, it don't care.
So while all that was going on, I was just like, you know what? I'm done. I'm done and trying to do every damn thing everybody else is doing. And I just grabbed a daggum iPad or a legal pad or whatever, and I just started writing.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd already written whenever I was a kid a folder about that thick, and I still got it in my top sock drawer at the house. I always kept everything that I ever wrote because shit makes the best fertilizer.
Oh, yeah.
Period. So whenever all that happened, I'd been in town for about 5 or 6 years, and I'd already become not a seasoned songwriter per se, but I could tell how my songwriting had taken a different direction.
Right.
Because songwriting is like going to the gym. I mean, it's a muscle that you work, and the more you work it, the stronger it gets.
Exactly.
So I just started writing. You know, I had a buddy of mine. His name's Trent Tomlinson. He's got a plethora of hit songs. And I'd done shows with him in the past, and I was like, hey, dude, when can we write? When can we write? He's like, I ain't writing with you. I was like, what? He's like, I'm not going to write with you until you go somewhere and you hole up in a corner, turn one light on with a bottle of whiskey, and you just write. Don't try to write a song, just write.
Yeah.
So I did that. I was in Birmingham, Alabama. I was down there for my day job, and I curled up in a corner in a hotel room with just one night light on the little desk table. Mm-hmm. And I had a bottle of Maker's Mark. It was a pint.
Uh-huh.
And I'm sitting there and I'm writing. And the first line I wrote was like, I'm a worn out needle in a vinyl groove. I'm more than just faded ink. I'm your first tattoo. Mm-hmm. And then it continued on, and it was like 7 pages front and back of just like one-liners.
Right.
And I went back and I looked at it, and I was like, I got to find a song out of this so Trent will write with me.
Oh, yeah.
But all that disappeared because I looked at it and I was like, is this really who I am? So I wrote a song called Who I Am out of all that, and I'll never record it. If you want to know exactly who I am, you got to come to my show because I open with that song every show.
Right.
And it tells exactly my story.
So it basically went on a self-discovery type thing.
Exactly. Self-discovery and self-destruction.
Yeah,
Depends on how you look at it.
Hey, sometimes the best thing comes out of something that you destroyed.
Yeah, but I've been trying to write with Trent for 5 or 6 years, and he, God bless him, man. I did a show with Trent back in June of last year, and it was on the heels of Damn Straight going #1 by Scotty McCreery, because him and Jim Collins wrote it.
Yeah.
And he's like, hey, man, we need to get a date on the books. I was like, he's coming to me for dates now. That's pretty cool. So we got a date on the book, and we were supposed to write, and that was the same week Damn Straight went #1. And he was like, hey, man, listen, I got a lot of stuff that needs my attention this week. I can't do it. And I get it because it's a #1 song. BMI's pulling him. Radio's pulling him. Everybody's pulling him. And we tried to line everything up, but I talked to him 2 days ago and sent him some dates. So we're supposed to write the end of this month. So we'll see what happens.
Cool.
And he's one of my heroes as a writer, man, because he writes so well. Mm-hmm. He's a great artist too. I'm not taking anything away from that, man. Yeah. But his writing, I mean, if you listen to his lyrics, they're stone cold country, and with the way the industry is, he's got to put a pop melody to it.
Oh yeah.
But if you listen to the lyrics of his songs, I'm like, dude's lived it. Mm-hmm. And there's not a lot of people in town that can do that.
And that's what I love. I love how y'all were getting back to that.
Yeah, exactly. And for me, I never left that, but and it's funny because this old Barbara Mandrell song is like, I was country when country wasn't cool. You guys just didn't see it.
Oh, yeah.
I've always told my story.
Yeah, exactly.
Even if I didn't tell it the way I wanted to tell it, somebody else did, and I cut the songs because they told it the way I wanted to tell it. Yeah.
Dude, we're going to have to get out of here.
Yeah, let's do it. Man.
I mean.
I've had so much fun, man. This has been great. It's like chatting one of my best friends.
Well, I mean, we've been talking 2 hours now, right?
Time flies when you're having fun. Joe Rogan, eat your heart out, buddy.
That's right. We don't talk about serious shit. We just have some fun.
Yeah. Well, we still got the whiskey and the cigars, though.
Yeah.
That's all that matters.
I don't think if I got cigars, I ain't got cigars.
I can't smoke a cigar, dude.
I couldn't smoke.
Mess all this up, man.
I know, right? Well, I mean, I don't want to mess up my voice,
I can't say that, man. Before I go in the studio, this is an old Jared Neiman trick. Before I go into the studio, every time, the night before, I drink whiskey. Mm-hmm. And the reason for it is like, you get that real deep voice. And that's why he sang like 9 parts harmony on Lover Lover, because he stayed out drinking all night.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, that's a way to have fun and do what you love.
Exactly. Dude, you're welcome back anytime.
Dude, I'd love to come back. I just love being here. It's been a great time, man. It's been a great podcast. I love just sitting here chatting with you. It was really cool.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
You're a hell of a man. I'm on.
You ain't too bad yourself there,
I appreciate it. Well, I mean, I'm not as cute as you, but,
Hey, truth be told, I work hard to stay this cute.
All right, y'all. We getting out of here. Y'all have a good night, and we'll talk to you later.
See y'all.
Deuces. See you. Bye.